So everyone is always asking me, Eric, where do I find libraries? Well, I think my guest today knows where all the bodies are buried in this particular subject. And if you haven't heard the name Art Munson, then you have either forgotten his name or not Googled music libraries, or you just don't know that he is the mastermind at musiclibraryreport.com, the guiding voice for people for a lot of years. We're going to talk about that. So today, we're going to find out how Art makes music income, his background in music and composing and music licensing, why and how he started Music Library Report, and then hang around because we are going to sling the dirt about every library that we can think about, from Pond 5 to AudioSparx, from Scorekeepers to Crucial Music, stock libraries, sync libraries, all kinds of libraries, unlibraries, not libraries. We're going to get to it today. But first, as always, on this channel, I have something free for you, and Art has a deal for you as well. Do you want to describe, tell people about your deal you have for people right now for this?
Well, it's a coupon code, 30% off, MMI24.
Yep.
And that's a coupon code, and it ends on February 29th, which is a leap year, I guess, huh?
Cool. Well, I will put that in the description below and get that for everybody. If you want to get that code, you can find it in the description below. And my free thing is, do you know, since we're going to be talking about libraries today, I have a course that many of you know. It's called The Stock Market. It talks about all the stock music libraries, the MicroSync libraries, all the different names we have for them. But I have added 2 more modules to the beginning of that are free. So you can go take the introduction and you can go take the 2 other modules for free and see if you like it before you even decide to take the whole full course. And you can find that at makemusicincome.com/stock market. So there's 2 deals for you to find music libraries. You people who say that there's no way to find music libraries, well, usually I find, Art, that they are just not looking hard enough for music libraries, because it doesn't take long if you type in music libraries to find Music Library Report or to find some actual music libraries. And so I think we've both tried to help people find them, but you've done it for longer. So let me just now introduce you for real here on the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, Art Munson of Music Library Report. Art, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, Eric.
Let's start with a question I ask every single person on this channel, and you're going to have probably a different answer than most, and I'm soon going to have a different answer than most. But how do you make music income these days?
Oh, well, oh boy, that's a good question. I guess, you know, we have a lot of stuff that's been on air, so we get money from BMI, from our pros. We get some licensing income. I have a lot of things I played on back in the years past. I still get money from that. The market has changed a lot, as we all know. I think it's harder. I've noticed a lot of the, a lot of the stuff, if you're not in, the high-end libraries, you're dealing with getting placements in reality shows, and a lot of that kind of stuff. And I see that market has changed a lot. They're using a lot more artists now in those shows. But there's always people out there looking for music. The market changes so much in terms of the style of production, and just trying to keep abreast of that. And I think there is money to be made out there, and that's where we seem to be getting whatever money we make from there.
One thing I don't talk about much on this channel, though, if it sticks around for another 7 years, I will. And I talk about it a little bit, but that is retirement and music life and music income, because there is a combination, or there's going to be, especially as far as Americans, at least, where we're going to get some retirement, and then we are going to have money that we make other than that. And a lot of people watching this, this is not a popular subject probably for the 35 to 44 crowd that watches this channel. Most people think that when you retire, you just sit around in Florida, like I am, looking at the blue skies and going to the beach all day. And the truth is, those of us who are truly musicians can never, quote unquote, retire. We might get some retirement income, which makes it nicer not to have to like bust it like I have to now to get all the funds I need to pay mortgage and everything. Talk about that a little bit, what it's like to be in that age of retirement plus, being in music.
Well, I'm not shy. I'm 83. So,
And still going strong.
I made up my mind a long time ago. In fact, I'll tell you at 83, I have a lot of stories. So here's one of my favorite. When I first moved to LA, I met a guy named Sidney Cohen, and this was 1971. And Sidney was a great guy. He had written the lyrics to Harlem Nocturne, which is an old instrumental that was very successful back in the day. And he had written some other lyrics. Well, Sidney was 70 some years old, and he had his hand in 2 or 3 studios in LA. He had partnerships. He was always listening to pop radio. He was always trying to write songs, trying to write hit songs. And I said, Sidney, when I'm your age, I want to be just like you. And I'm still doing it. The thing is, even with all this stuff coming out, with all the way that the music has changed so much, especially in the last 15 years or so since we started writing production music, I'm always going to be making music. It doesn't really matter. I don't care what the market does. I'm always going to be trying. What was it? A friend of mine said, I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I'm always trying stuff, and I'm going to try, I went out yesterday looking for new software because I go, I need some of this. I need some transition software. So I started looking at that, It's like, I love this stuff. So,
I got a big Sweetwater order on its way. Just shipped today. Ooh, baby. So you've been in music for a long time. How did you get your start in music?
My dad had a band. They were together for 50 some years, square dance band. Mm-hmm. So that was my mom's thing. I was in the Marine Corps. I got stationed in California in 1958. Yeah, I used to drive around and go down to Newport Beach and down to Balboa Island and the Balboa Peninsula and hang out down there. And I ran across this guy playing in a Ricky Dink ice cream parlor, and his name was Dick Dale. Dick was sort of the founding father of surf music. And I ended up he had a record store. I'd go in there and I'd say, I play a little guitar, And one day he said to me, well, I've got to play in this club, but all my guitar player is too young. Do you want to play? I said, sure. Well, from then on, I was playing with Dick and I had to go overseas when I was in the service for a year. I got back. I continued playing with Dick. The guy who was the sax player in the band said, come on and sit in with these guys down in Santa Ana. And I go, I don't know, I'm too shy, I don't know. Finally, I went down there. Well, it was the Righteous Brothers before they were successful. So then when they became big, I started touring and recording with the Righteous Brothers. This was in the 60s. I didn't want to do that anymore. I wanted to be in a band because I'd never been in a band. Got in the band, did that towards the end of 60. Band didn't go anywhere. I had one album. Then I moved to LA. Oh, I know. I was working with Bill Medley. Mm-hmm. In San Francisco. Paul Williams happened to come in. He said, I really like the way you plan. If you ever move to LA, look me up. So Paul was great. He was one of the best guys I worked for. He treated my family great. He used to flew my parents out when we played in Lake Tahoe. He was a great guy. So I worked for Paul. And then being in LA, just kind of like got into the clique of recording and doing studio work. So I did a lot of studio work all through the 70s, and then got burned out in that in 79, then opened a recording studio in my house in LA, did that for a bunch of years, moved to Nashville, and then in 2005, met a guy who was dating a woman who worked at a production company. They did reality TV shows. Mm-hmm. They said, well, we don't like our music anymore. He says, well, I know some people. And that's how we got into doing that. It was cool, but my wife got sick, and thank God she's fine now. And so we moved back to LA in 2000. And I built a little studio there and did a little bit more work. 2005, with this friend of ours that met this woman, and then we started cranking out the production music.
Yeah. And so that's when licensing came into the picture, and or production music, whatever you want to call it. So you're back in, you've gone to Nashville, you've come back to LA, and you've got into production music, and you're doing production music things. When did Music Library Report, or is this something recent, or is this something how long has that been around?
No, I was in yoga one day. My wife and I
It's
went
such
to
an
yoga.
LA thing to say. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, right, yeah. But she still goes. So anyways, and of course, when I was supposed to be zenning out or whatever, and we were writing production music. This was about 2007 or 2008. And I thought, I've got an idea. Where do you find all these libraries?
Yeah.
Remember Film Music Network?
Yes, of course. I was part of that for years. Absolutely.
Were you part of that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, who was the other guy? Wasn't there another guy?
It's called Film TV Network or something like that, right? Film Music Network.
I contacted somebody there, and they gave me a whole list of libraries. I told them what I wanted to do, so they gave me a whole list of libraries. And I had started building websites and messing around with them in the early 90s. I said, well, I could figure this out. So I built a website out of WordPress, and that was pretty much it.
Music Library Report came on my radar early on as I was talking with different people like Ed Hartman and different people, about music licensing. And he's like, have you ever heard of Music Library Report? And I was like, I think so. And so I've joined it several times. So when it started, and we have all these libraries, we're going to go through them all here in a minute, but what did it start as? Did it start more as production music for television and film? Was there a divide right away between music for like stock music and sync licensing?
Yeah, I think it's kind of sort of morphed into that, back in the day, you talk about library music, and like nobody wanted to do it. And I'm talking going back to the 60s. I mean, this stuff started way, way back. Mm-hmm. And it was like sort of uncool to be in that, if you were a working musician, like I was, it's like, or producing and writing, you didn't want to be there.
Same with jingles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then, as things change, you go on in your life, and I'm sure there's probably 30-year-olds out there, working full time in bands and wouldn't ever dream of doing this. But I think initially it was just, when I was in it, it was production music, it was library music. But I could see over the years, it slowly morphed into sync licensing. And like I said, when you listen to reality shows now, I don't even know how some of these acts are getting paid, because I see APM as the credit on the end credit on some of these shows, and some really good music on there. I mean, they're artist records, they're singles,
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that some of them are writing specifically. You can tell lyrically what they're doing. They're either finding stuff that goes with the show, or they're writing stuff for the show that has lyrics in it. That has changed a lot, and it's become more about getting artists placed per se into some of these shows. And everybody's hustling. Everybody's trying to get heard above the noise. And we're all doing it. And if you can get your music into shows or TV shows and get noticed, that's where it's headed, and it's already there for that matter.
I think it's become a little bit of the new version of getting signed. Is being an artist and getting a big placement. And I think a lot of the music supervisors are now kind of in the role of the A&R director of a label.
Right, yeah.
And I just talked with Tamara Bubble recently, who is she's a force, but she also has her own sync agency. And, she is someone who has made a career as an artist for sync, an artist for placements, not necessarily an artist as a record label type of thing, but almost she is using sync as her promotional device for her music.
Wow.
And I think that is, and that has become, and I don't know, labels are probably jumping on all of this too, because that's one of the
Sure.
last places there is of money unless their streaming numbers are really high or they're touring, because there is no more sales. And so placements now has replaced CD sales as an income for labels and for artists. I want to talk about exclusive versus non-exclusive. You had started to touch on this for a minute before we just dive into libraries. I have, like you, I have started 2024 with the mindset, and I was kind of like this in 23, but I am moving more towards non-exclusive, if not fully non-exclusive. I have deals with several exclusive libraries, and one of them which brings me good sync income from reality shows and different things like that. And I can, I have freedom there to write albums if I get the go ahead and just deliver whatever I want. And they usually, I did a Christmas dramedy album for them just recently, and it did really well during the holidays. And so, I don't mind that. I don't mind exclusivity, especially if I know it's going to make me money. But
well, yeah, that's the thing, and you don't know.
But if I have a pretty good idea it will, I'm fine with it. But everything else, probably 80%, I'm going to be keeping non-exclusive from this point on, because number one, I want to be able to do all the promoting of it on Spotify and on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, and put it in every library, because you never know when even a Pond5 or a Audio Jungle or something like that is going to be a $200 or $300 a big license, and every dollar counts and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. Absolutely. But I think I've landed on that non-exclusive side. I've seen the light. The sync agents I've been talking to recently say there is no reason to give away your publishing. There's no reason for that. Now, I do love libraries. I believe in libraries. Obviously, you believe in libraries. You have a whole site about libraries. But at the same time, I am talking with sync agents now, and I will be pitching to them first before I put things into libraries, or at least into exclusive libraries, and probably be still working with my exclusive libraries.
I was with an exclusive I've been with a few exclusive libraries, and sometimes they do well and then they sort of peter out. And it's fortunately, all the exclusive libraries I've had good relationships. I've managed to get them back.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to do. Yeah. But I was fortunate to find some really good people. And I enjoy working with them, but I just, after a while, just say, it's just not working. They're just sitting there, and they will go, okay, yeah, we agree. And they'd give it back to me. But if I was in, a top, an APM or one of those libraries, and it was like just doing well, I would have no problem. But it's never been my experience. It's just never been my experience. That's personally.
Yeah, and like I said, I have with one library that things do well there. Especially if they're holiday based, because I have a couple holiday albums with them, or if they're love based, because I have some generic love type things with them and stuff like that. They do well. And so I don't have a problem with that. They bring me some income, and every year it's growing. But everything else, I just feel like I'm going to, and I also have a few libraries that are doing zero, and one of them, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But I will probably, when the 3-year option is up, I will probably pull them, a lot of that stuff back out if possible, and keep it non-exclusive. So let's quit teasing and let's talk about some music libraries, if you don't mind. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on everyone. I just want to get your initial thoughts about all of these libraries. And we'll start kind of from the bottom up or top down. It depends on how you think of libraries. But we're going to start with where I always start, and where I tell everybody to start, especially if they're new to licensing. And that is our old friend, Pond5.
Right.
I just had a new artist, and she's working. She's a cellist, and she's working on these cello arrangements. And she just emailed me today. She got 7 songs into Pond5. That's her first library, and she was just over the moon, But I think it's a good place for people to start. What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean, I got started with Pond5 when it was owned by Tom. Can't remember his name. And then he sold it, and then it got sold again. It's when, I don't know, did you know Mike Pace when he was there?
I've heard this
Mike,
story from other people who have been
yeah,
part of
right.
it that long.
So Mike was a great guy, and he was, hands-on. We had a great relationship, and then he left. And then of course, they changed it, and once again, they want you to go exclusive. And I'm not going to do that. The same with Audio Jungle, and I'm not going to do that. So they, it used to be 50-50. Now it's 35-65 or whatever it is. And it's really, it still delivers every month, money. And I've noticed the last couple of months it sort of came up a little bit. And so, I'm not as crazy about like putting stuff in there constantly like I was, because I have I've got a ton of stuff in there of all different kinds, and it sells regularly. So I think it's a great place for people to start. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't know about their briefs when they put their briefs out, whether they mean a lot. I haven't really tried that.
Yeah, I haven't either.
But I am interested to see what they say in their briefs. Like, the latest one was hand pan music. I went, I never heard of that before.
I saw that. Okay. I use Pond 5 a little differently than most people use it. I use it as a place to get, I hope, I've got 300 plus things in there, which is probably low compared to what you have. But, I have sales through there. But what I really use Pond 5 for, and I talk about this all the time, is as a library, a kind of a catalog, kind of a database where I can just go pull all my stuff from. So I use it first just to make my description, make my keywords. When I can go there anytime and see what the tempo is, see what the key is, see all those, see the running time, and so it's my catalog. And it's always up. I can just go to it and I keep Pond 5 up as I'm putting in other things. But then I do something
very similar. It's like everything that I do, because I built this big database, a relational database to keep track of everything. Yeah. And everything goes into Pond 5 because that way, if I have to pull anything from anywhere, I can go to my database and go to Pond 5 and
copy and paste.
I do something. Well, yeah.
Absolutely. It was my third most performing of the libraries after Motion Array and Content ID last year. I kind of include Content ID with these incomes because it's mostly from these. Like, it's like chicken and the egg type of thing. If I don't put stuff out on Motion Array and Pond 5, I never make any money on Content ID for the most part, probably. There's probably some money to be caught on Content ID from people who steal it from illegally downloaded or something like that from things.
Well, I'm sure. I'm sure. And, that's the great thing about being in, like with Identifyy or any of those companies that, if they let them steal it, fine. If it gets, if they've got 1 million views, I'll take the money.
Let's,
I don't want them to steal it, but, they're gonna.
We'll get back to libraries in a minute. Let's jump ahead to Content ID, and you're with Identifyy. I'm with Identifyy. There's right now a bit of a lag to get the latest month, which I think is back in October. I think we're still waiting for October right now.
Well, yeah, we just got paid, and it was the September, the end of the third quarter.
I didn't get paid. I didn't make it this time, but that means my next check is going to be very big. But all that to say, Content ID, I think, is a necessary. I think if you are a music maker and you're putting out music, even if you're not putting stuff out to libraries, you should be on Identifyy or in some kind of Content ID. It's like being on BMI, I believe, these days.
Yeah, especially these days.
You were with AdRev. What was your experience with AdRev?
Pennies. Jumped to dollars when I went to Identifyy.
Yeah. And
I mean, such a huge difference. I couldn't believe it. I don't mind a cut. Wish it was less, but it's found money.
Yeah, agreed. Found money is for sure. I mean, it when I first signed up for it, it was just like, well, I didn't have this money before, and now I do. So I'll take whatever it is, whether it's $100 or $10, I'll take it.
You got to, it's a business of pennies, really. It's turned into that. You got to get it. wherever you can get it. And there's a lot of places to get, like neighboring rights is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've got a deal there.
I know that. Did that take several years to get started to start to see
No,
anything?
didn't take long at all. And it's another few $100 every quarter or so, whatever he pays.
It's like Sound Exchange. It's like any of those things, you
Yeah.
just got to be part of all of them. You never know.
And MLC is another one. Mechanical Licensing Collective.
Yeah. MLC.
That's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you are
So
doing very well on Spotify or streamers, you need to be in the MLC. And you're in the United States, you need to be in MLC for sure.
right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, we're not doing great on Spotify, but we did finally get a check from MLC the last couple of weeks ago.
yeah, it's taken me a long time. I've gotten 2 or 3 payments from them, but they've been for like $10 or something like
Yeah,
that.
I know.
So let's get back to libraries. We started with Pond 5. Let's go to the other big elephant in the room that is kind of a smaller elephant now, which is Audio Jungle, which was
Right.
probably the other big. Whenever you hear about the old days from a Daniel Carrizales or somebody like that who started back in the day with some of these libraries like Pond 5, they also started with Audio Jungle. And Stevie B, my podcast partner and friend, he started with Audio Jungle, and there were days of wine and roses with Audio Jungle.
Yeah.
But it's changed since it closed its doors now, coming up on 3 years ago. Do you realize it's almost been 3 years since they,
Really, they're not taking anybody new.
in
I thought I
2021,
that.
mid 2021, they closed. Are they back open?
No, no, I haven't been paying that much attention. I just, I every once in a while upload something there, and I thought I guess I had heard that, but I didn't register.
I'll have to check that out. But it's still, I had a sale there the other day, and I think it was still my 5th most paying libraries. I have 2. I have a regular account, a non-exclusive and an exclusive account with them. And so I think if you add them both up, they still are only the 5th most income I had from those kind of libraries last year.
Yeah.
So, but and I don't want to spend too much time on it because anyone who's new and is not in it can't get in it, or at least they couldn't as of recently.
Yeah.
I did hear of one person who got in, but and
Oh, is that right?
along with them, there's Envato Elements, which I was. You have to be invited to. Were you ever invited to Envato Elements?
I don't think
I
so.
think you would know because from what I understand, it does pretty well. It's
Yeah, I heard that it does pretty well. Yeah.
I've seen some payment reports that it does very well. But again, you can't just apply for it. You have to be invited, and I think you have to be invited because you had so many sales on Audio Jungle or something like that. But
Right.
so from there, let's go to AudioSparx. What are your thoughts about AudioSparx? I saw a note you had about some personal things with AudioSparx recently, but
Yeah, Barbie, she just passed away. She was wonderful. Yeah, I got into them really early on. But I'm in the RadioSparx part of it.
yeah, I am now.
I pulled everything out of there
Yeah,
because it just I don't like that in perpetuity aspect of
and
it.
no content ID.
Yeah, and I was fortunate that I was able to get all our stuff out of there,
You were.
except for radio. Yeah, because I'd been with them for so long.
Yeah.
RadioSparx, I kept stuff in there,
Yeah.
but I haven't really uploaded.
It's like
anything
streaming.
there.
I
Yeah,
get the RadioSparx. I switched over to RadioSparx 2 for everything new because that they don't want to pay content ID, but and everything of mine goes in content ID. That's why we all go to non-exclusive so we can control all those incomes.
that's exactly right.
What about your thoughts about Motion Array? We'll talk about Artlist in a minute because they're tied together. But are you part of Motion Array?
No, never got into them. Never. I really didn't look much beyond an art list. I never got into them. Never tried them.
These Artlist, I think, is one of those libraries that's personally, I think that is a young person's library. In other words, I think that is one of those record label-esque library things where when you look through their, I challenge you, and I talked to Stevie B about this because he's in there, but I talk with my friends about this, and I challenge you to find someone that looks like you or me in that in that roster. There are maybe a few or one or two, but I think it's Artlist is they're trying. I think Artlist is moving towards TV. I think they're trying to become more of a TV and movie library as much as a high-end YouTube library versus Motion Array, which seems mainly focused on composers and things for YouTube. And you see all these in people talking about them in Music Library Report all the time. And by the way, we should probably just do a little commercial right at this time for Music Library Report, because this is exactly what is going on there. And you don't really initiate these conversations. You just facilitate all these conversations. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, is build, like I say, a knowledge base. And so if somebody tries to create a topic in a library, I close it down and say, no, you need to put it, if you have a question about a library, you've got to put it on the listing. Because I want everybody, if they're going to comment upon Five or comment on any library, I want it to be in that listing. That way, when people go there, they can see any conversations that have gone on over years, for that matter, because it goes back to 2009. And frankly, over the years, things have changed.
Sure.
But I want it to be a knowledge base, basically like a wiki, for music library.
I have a Discord that's about 1,500 strong right now, and there's a lot of people in there that we keep each other up on what's happening, what's going on with this library, that library, the other one. But there's still nothing better in my like once a year I have to go to Music Library Report and buy it for a week or a month or whatever, just so I can kind of see what the scuttlebutt is about everything. What am I missing? Is there a library I don't know about that this person was reported on or something like that? And I don't use it every month because I just don't have time, but I do use it.
Sure.
I do need to. There's no other place like it. There's no other Discord other than mine that even comes close to the discussions about libraries that Music Library Report does. So you do. It's a great facility, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so we've got a 30% off coupon for you for Music Library Report. You can join for a week, for a month, for a year. You can join however you like. Just go down into the description and get that. Because if you're looking for music libraries and you want to know which ones are working right now, that's a great place to find that out. But let's talk about some things on the other side of that, moving towards more production music for television and film and things. But first, let's get into a few little middle of the road guys like SongTradr. Are you familiar with SongTradr at all?
Yeah, I am. I think I had stuff up there for a while.
SongTradr was my fourth biggest income last year in these
Is it
things.
really?
As far as these kind of libraries, just as far as putting my non-exclusive stuff up there and having it all up there, mainly because they have all these monetization options, especially overhead music. And then a few compilation album type things where they put compilation albums together. It's mostly like music for use, and sometimes putting it behind Twitch or putting it behind video little apps and things like that. They need little pieces of audio.
Yeah.
So it's not exclusive. I just let them use it all and put it on there, and it sometimes turns into $100 or $200 a month. And so
now
the downside is it's basically like, I'm trying to find one that's like this. It's a lot. It's not quite at AudioSparx level as far as how many screens you have to fill out, because AudioSparx is a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's like crazy. Their interface is.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But it is. There are a few screens, but they're not that bad. But SongTradr has been good to me, and there have been a few things that have been used in licensing where I've gotten some licensing dollars. So I highly suggest it, and I like I said,
I'll check them out. I'll check both of those out because what's better than having more stuff to do.
Exactly. What else you gonna do? Just sit around and watch TV all day? Okay. So here's another one. Another one that I've become a little bit more involved in recently.
No, yeah,
MusicSupervisor.com.
it's very coughing.
Coughing.
Yeah, yeah.
I joined recently as an experiment this year, the premium version of that, which is $9.99 a month.
I didn't really do that. I actually emailed him a while back and say, yeah, I think I'm going to try this, but because I was in there for a long time, and like a lot of people, talk about it, and they get nothing, and I finally just pulled it out of there. But I was thinking about going back and what you're doing and do the premium one
Yeah,
and give him another shot because I like him. I actually met him and talked to him.
he,
He's a nice guy.
you know what? He's after it. I don't. He's your standard LA guy to me.
Yeah.
I heard this the other day. We got this possibility, and this could happen, and this could happen, and this could
I thought
happen.
that was New York. I
Yeah.
thought that was New York.
Well, it's like any music business person I've ever heard, but yeah,
Exactly
I
right.
truly, so far from what I've seen, I think he's got the heart of the songwriter slash producer wanting to get in there. I think he's got a heart for them, and you can get on a live Zoom with him once a month through this thing. Plus, you get a totally ton of briefs. I mean, I get sometimes 5 to 10 a day, and they don't last
Really?
long. They're not long. You sometimes are a couple hours, sometimes are a day. I submitted some to one just the other day. I think I've done 3 to 5 briefs with them so far. And so if you like briefs and you want to try it
No,
out,
I hate him. I hate him. I don't
dude,
like
did
him
you
at
just
all.
see my last video? I just had a video out, and it's called "Why Briefs Chafe Me" is why I called it originally. And I do not.
I don't want anything to do with
I like to write my own things. Here's the only weird reason I like briefs. If a brief comes along and I have exactly what it wants, I'll respond to
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly
Otherwise,
right.
I am not just going to sit around and try to write to briefs. How frustrating is that? That's the
Oh
worst.
man, it's funny. This nephew I talked to you about, he's actually got a gig. He's like in his 30s, so he's right at that right age. And he's actually has a writing gig with JinglePunks, and of course, they take part of his writing.
Yep.
Um, but he loves briefs. He
20
loves.
years ago, I might have loved briefs.
Yeah, yeah.
I've written for clients for 25 years, and I'm a little done writing for clients. And I'm on the
Yeah.
back end now, and I'm more into my composing again. I went back and got my master's in composition a few years ago here in Florida. And now I
Oh,
just want to compose what I want to compose. I'm back to
yeah.
that place
Amen.
again.
Me too. I'm the same way. It's just I want to write what I want to write. And I've always been that way,
Yeah,
though.
me
It's
too.
when I got into music after the first initiation with this production company. I got to the point where I just want to write what I want to write,
Yeah.
And if something happens, fine, If it doesn't, well, I'm okay.
Either way is fine. If you decide
Yeah,
you want to just work for music and work for clients, there's no shame or problem with that.
no, I don't. When you've done that for a long time, then I think you just, working for clients, having a studio, doing all that stuff, writing, after a while, it's like, no,
It's just like
I
making
don't want to
someone
travel
else's
anymore.
dreams come true for so long, and you
Yeah,
just say, you know what, I just want to make music like I did when I first started. And
yeah,
I think as we get older, we get more in that way. All right,
absolutely.
so the next place I want to talk about is let's talk about Score a Score. I've never talked about them on this channel, but I have pitched to them, and I have a really good connection there. His name is
Jordan,
no, is it Max? What about Matt? Is it Max at Score a Score?
I think he's there. I think there's an actor. Jordan, I think, was one of the
Max has
one of the,
politely declined some things from me before, but he at least would return an email from me every time saying
yeah.
this.
I've got some really good placements with them, and I had. Then they went exclusive,
Yeah, yeah,
and so it's funny. They went exclusive, and I said, no. I said I want. I eventually took all my stuff back, and they were kind enough to give it back to me. But I had one thing. They had gone exclusive. I had submitted them something for a Jack Daniels commercial, and whoever the woman I talked to over there, she says, I don't know, it was like a year later, I said, well, they decided they want that. And I said, this is still non-exclusive, right? And she said, no, it has to be exclusive. I said, no. They took it. Jack Daniels took it anyways, which just shows you the whole exclusive, non-exclusive stuff means nothing.
Yeah.
Because if a client wants it, they don't give a crap.
I had
Really don't.
I had a sync agent on Mark Freezer. I don't know if you know Mark, but he from Sync Summit, and he came on my show the other day, and he said, this whole thing, exclusive versus non-exclusive, they will make you believe that music supervisors want everything exclusive, and that if they have to have complete control over the song. You know what music supervisors care about? Having the song that they want and moving on to the next thing. They could care less.
Yeah, it's a big con.
Yeah.
And it was when it first came up on Music Library Report. This is like 10 years ago, whenever this started coming up. It's a con, man. It doesn't, because the client wants it what it wants. It doesn't care.
And they don't care. They want it as fast and as quickly as they can get it, so they got to move on to the next thing. And they don't care where it comes from, whether it comes from a person they know, a sync agent, or a music library. In the end, if they get what they want, great. Moving on.
Now, I can see, from a business point of view, if you own a library, it's great to go to a client and say, nobody in the world has got this. We're the only ones that have this music. And you be assured, maybe that's a selling point for them. The client doesn't know any better, possibly.
What I just heard from this sync agent is that on average, the client doesn't care. That's not the biggest selling point for the client, especially if they're up against a deadline. They would much rather just have the song than go, can I only have a song that you only have the version of? I love this song, but are you the only person who has it? Because I just think if they're up against it, they won't care.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right, here's another exclusive library with a similar name, Scorekeepers.
Oh yeah, when they were non-exclusive, I had a lot of success with them. In fact, we had a whole bunch of stuff on Let's Make a Deal through them.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it ran for quite a while, and then of course they went exclusive, and then they had a guy over there who, I don't know if he's still there, but he was difficult to deal with from my point of view. Vaughn has always been great.
Yeah.
He's an easy guy, wonderful guy to deal with. But this other person I had a hard time with, and so I kind of never followed up, once they went exclusive. But when they were non-exclusive, we got a lot of stuff. I tell you, we have one experience which I thought I would try foolishly, where they said, well, this deal with this network, it was one of those weird networks. They want all the publishing, so we have to take a piece of the writing. Now, I had so much good success with this, I would never advise anybody to do this. No. I thought, well, they've been really good, a lot of success. I'll give it a shot. Turn into nothing. So, so initially they were great. And Vaughn, I can't say enough good things about him. He's been wonderful.
Yeah, my experience with them so far over 2 or 3 years has been that I've seen nothing on TuneSat, which doesn't necessarily mean anything. TuneSat is not the end all be all, but and we'll talk about TuneSat in a minute, but I like working with them. Okay. And I have hundreds of stuff in their catalog, but I haven't really seen, I've seen a few things on my royalty statements here and there, just tiny little things. So, but that's one of the ones that when the term is up, there might have some discussions about getting a few things back, The
business is changing so much and so fast. I think everybody's getting caught in between.
Yeah, for sure. Here is a library similar, a strange library, I think, but I like them very much, although I don't think I've ever got anything placed through them. Crucial Music.
Yeah, I've had some good luck with Crucial Music. And I like the people, Tandy. I like the people over there, and we've got some really good placements through Crucial. Off the top of my head, I can't think of them.
I just love the fact that they show you where they're pitching and you can see the
Yeah, I
pitches.
love that too.
That is,
And they're always pitching.
yeah,
They're always pitching. Even stuff that we gave them, they've had for like 5, 6, 7 years.
yes,
I go check it out, and they're still pitching it.
they are very picky. It's very hard to
Yeah,
get
they're
stuff in there.
very hard to get into.
I'm probably,
Really hard to get
I'm probably
into.
about one out
And
of
I think that
seven. I'm
huh?
probably about 1 out of 7 pitches to them.
Yeah.
And it takes 3 months to get into get those
To
three
get into
songs.
it. Yeah.
Because
It's
now
funny. It's because
they do covers now though. And so covers count as another 3 songs. So you can actually do 6 songs at a time if you do covers. And I have a few covers with them now. But it's great to see that the pitches, and yeah, I have pitches from like last month that I can just
yeah,
see. And it's, yeah, songs they've had for years. So I really
they're
enjoy
always
it.
working. Yeah,
I enjoy
they're
them.
terrific.
It's just very hard to get in there, which is fine. I'm actually fine with libraries that it's hard to get into
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because that means they're not just accepting any old crap. And I like that.
You're exactly right. I agree.
Tell me what you think about this other company that I did my very first pitch to respond to a brief yesterday, just because I had it.
Mhm.
TuneEdge.
Yeah, was I was with him for quite a while, Joel, and they've been great, and I had a lot of stuff in there, but it was years and nothing, and I just said, you know what, I sort of got into this thing where I just didn't want my music scattered all over the place because I figure I got another 16 more years. I figure I'm going to make it to 100. And when
Nope.
my time comes, I want the stuff all free and clear so I can pass it off. I've
Absolutely.
already picked the person to pass it off so that they know where everything
Yeah.
is. And it's not out in a whole bunch of places just sitting because it was just sitting.
Right.
And somebody had mentioned that they had gotten something on TuneEdge recently they mentioned it on Music Library Report. And I was really surprised and I was happy to hear because I hadn't heard anybody really getting anything through them. And but I like them and they're easy to deal with. And it's kind of a weird little website submitting thing, but
It's not too
as long as
hard,
you
actually.
not too hard, it kind of threw me a little bit getting used to it.
I said,
They actually have improved it since they started it.
have they?
It was a little kludgier before when it first started.
I haven't done exclusive. And so on the non-exclusive contract, it seems like we're splitting the writers 2020, but I mean, 50-50. But I think that's because I keep the publishing and or they are retitling, I hope.
They do
Okay,
retitle.
good. So if they're retitling, I don't care. If they get me something and we split it, I don't care. I don't want to. They can't get 25 of my BMI, but they can get 25 of their BMI and my BMI if they retitle. I don't. I'm one of those people who doesn't care about retitling. I could care less, as long
Yeah,
as.
no, I don't. There was a big thing about
Oh,
that, and I went,
I
PMA coming out, with the PMA, they had all this stuff about it, and then just go get over it.
when I first
It's not
got
like,
into this,
yeah,
that I was warned, never have your stuff retitled. I'm like, and as I've gone along, I've been like, well, that to me seems like a no-brainer. Let them
yeah,
retitle, and if they make some money with it, good. They make money for us both.
yeah, absolutely.
What about Pink Shark Music? Any?
Oh yeah, I was with them for a while. I don't think I ever had anything going on with them. I know I was with them for a while.
Yeah, nice people to work with so far, from what I know, but exclusive as
But
well.
you're busy on the libraries. You're hitting it.
Well, yeah, that's because I talk about them a lot and I keep finding them, and I have, the more the better. I think you have to just like we said, you got to put your music everywhere that's possible.
Hmm.
But then you have to make a decision if you're going to work with some of these that are exclusive. Which ones are you going to allow to be exclusive? Now, I'm probably a lot less precious with people with songs than a lot of people just because I have so many and I crank so much out all the
Hmm.
time. And I just always have. When you become a music producer, you get used to working on 20 to 100 songs at a time. And you don't even think about it because it's just work. If you have 10 clients and they're all doing a 10-song album, that's 100 songs you're working on, so
Yeah.
and plus I have a whole crew in Nashville And
Mhm.
so most of the time I'm sending, and I have clients that act as partners who pay for the players and the singers. And
Oh,
so,
gotcha. Yeah.
so I'm not always sitting here, making tunes
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
I have lots of things that are in process by other people. So I'm able to produce a lot.
No, that's great. That's wonderful.
Let's talk about TuneSat for a minute and any competitors that it may have. I know you offer a deal on your site, by the way, if people are interested on TuneSat. I don't pay them, but I do use them for my different libraries up to the 50 free tunes. I have found them to be helpful in knowing that I'm getting some things. What's your thoughts on TuneSat?
Yeah, I found there was a commercial running, and BMI had not picked it up, and TuneSat was picking it up, and there was about a 3-month lag, and they finally found it, but it turned into a lot of money because I found it on TuneSat. I would have never have known it was even running. It turned in about 20 grand.
So let's explain TuneSat real quick if anybody doesn't know what it is, but it's an always listening to television and what else? Radio or just television?
Webs, they monitor the web too.
Okay.
They have and they also do European, though I'm just in the US.
Yeah, thank God for European. That's how I get a lot of stuff used in Germany for some reason. There's a German music supervisor who really loves my music on one of my catalogs. So, because I'm in all these German reality shows, but all that said, which I'm happy about, that's fine. But all that said, I've seen that through TuneSat. I found out about it through TuneSat, and TuneSat's listening all the time to what's being played. And if it catches it, similar to Identifyy, if it's listening and it catches it, it lets you know that. And just like Identifyy, it lets you kind of go to that video or see a clip or at least hear a few seconds of what your music was being used, which I think is just amazing technology that exists. I mean, the TuneSat site is older, but it still works, and you got to give it some props.
Well, recently, there's been a message on their site that and it's been up there because this has come up on Music Library Report. The message up there is that they're updating their servers, and you can't create any new accounts or upgrade your account. Now, I don't know quite what's going on because this has been going on for at least over a week. So I don't know if there's something going on there or not. But yeah, I mean, it's the only thing I found that over the years, I used to reconcile. It's hard to do, but I used to take my BMI statement, put it in the spreadsheet, TuneSat, and reconcile them. Unless I catch that occasional one-off, like the commercial that's running, it's a wash. And TuneSat misses a bunch, and BMI misses a bunch, but they find a bunch, and it all comes out as a big wash. So, it's been my experience.
Is there any need to make a stink with BMI because you saw stuff on TuneSat that is not coming up on your BMI statement?
Not unless it's something like. No, and I used to do that, but it's such a hassle that the only time I said is I found this one commercial. It kept showing up and showing up, and BMI wasn't showing it, and I finally tracked it down, and that was the one time that paid off. But generally speaking, if the shows kind of keep running constantly, and sometimes because of the way Chris over at TuneSat explained to me, they get the schedules of the shows is different from it was at that time from where the detection is. So they have to sort of reconcile it on their end. And sometimes it's not right.
Yeah.
There'll be a show that's listed that's not actually the show that ran.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so you get into trying to go, well, this show's on TuneSat. Well, we don't accept TuneSat, but it says it, So I stopped trying to reconcile the spreadsheets. I do always check it, see if something pops up, but I stopped trying to reconcile them.
Excellent. Well,
Well,
lastly, let me just touch on neighboring rights. And we had mentioned that earlier, and you said you use Write-In Royalties, which I'll have to check out. And
mhm,
I had been looking at NRG, which was a company I did an interview with about neighboring rights. And if you're interested, I'll
mhm.
put that link below if you're watching and you want to know more about neighboring rights, because this guy Chris from NRG, he really explained it really well. And all the thing that the U.S. radio stations did not want to get involved with, as far as paying
Right.
these what essentially are mechanicals,
Terrestrial,
right?
no, terrestrial radio. It was originally terrestrial
Yeah,
radio that they were picking up.
right.
And yeah, what is it, mechanicals or whatever it
These
is? It's just it gets,
mechanicals, yeah.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, no, it's more money,
And it's
and
similar
it's
to
not
Sound Exchange. It pays all sorts of stuff. And Sound Exchange says they collect international royalties, but they collect international royalties of only a non non-interactive streaming. So
yeah,
Pandora and
right,
XM Radio, that's where they collect from. So yet around the
yeah,
world, but they don't collect from a German television network playing a show called Farmer Seeking a Wife, or Bauer sucht Frau, which is the one I've been on. And they don't collect the royalties for me that could be collected there. And so now the other answer to neighboring rights is to join a German, not GEMA, which is the
yeah.
performance rights, but
I
there's
know what you
another
mean.
one called
The collection society. They all have these different
CSO.
societies.
Yeah, the Collection
Yeah,
Society.
but don't you have to be theoretically a citizen of the
I don't
country to
know.
join it? That's the way it used to
I
be.
don't know.
You had to be a citizen of the country, but there was a workaround that these companies have found.
But what Ryden
Uh,
does, or NRG does, is they go to all these CSOs and
right.
collect these neighboring rights that are owed to the writer and could be performers, could be lots of things. But in our case, we probably are just all coming to us, and that's just more royalties that could possibly, more pennies and dollars that could come in. And so I'll have to look into Ryden royalties. I've seen it before. NRG, one problem with NRG is it's based in Prague, which is a little
No,
odd to sign documents with a company in the Czech
yeah.
Republic. If
Right. He's in Texas.
Yeah, that seems a little safer for some reason.
Yeah.
Probably there were libraries I didn't mention that you. Any libraries I didn't mention that you have
JinglePunks.
who?
Um, JinglePunks.
JinglePunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
them. I don't know if I've ever pitched to them or
Oh, they got me. They still get me more placements than anybody.
okay.
And
Exclusive or non-exclusive?
well, that's the thing, right? They were non-exclusive for a long time, and then they decided to go exclusive. And I don't know where my music is with them now. I mean, I had a conversation with one of the owners, and he said, "Sure, you can stay non-exclusive." Then he left the company, and I don't know where the music is, what status it's in. I've had conversations with him, say, "Oh no, we don't have any record of that," and so I don't know.
But it's
But
one of those deals probably that it's bringing you money, so you're like,
yeah, I'm not gonna complain. So they got at the time, and probably still to this day, they're the biggest source of revenue in a BMI statement.
wow, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Great meeting you.
Yeah, it was great to meet you finally, and thank you so much for all the work that you've done putting into Music Library Report. And I think I can say from everyone who's been part of that, whoever wants to just find out information, that they've really appreciate the work that you put into that. There's a lot in there. I mean, you could just go pages and pages and see all the things that you offer there, and just things you've thought of through the years that are very valuable. So I just want to say thank you for
Thank
for
you. Yeah.
making that and doing that and keeping that thing up. You could drop that at any moment, but you keep it going. I certainly appreciate it. And I know everybody does, because everybody's always asking me, the number one question is, where do I find libraries? I'm like, why don't you open up your browser and just do a search? So you have this thing called the internet. But anyway, but thank you so much for that. And we've
Take
said
care.
through this video, there's a discount for Music Library Report right below here.
Take care of yourself.
Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Good talking to you.
You too.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.